Hey guys, thank you for joining us again for the next episode of YOML. This is the Year of Much Learning podcast. So today we have a brand new book for you, and it's a two-part reflection. And today is part one of two. The book is called The Long Tail: Why the Future of Business is Selling Less of More by Chris Anderson. So part one of two, here we go.
Actually, now that I'm reading that subtitle, why the future of business is selling less
Doesn't make sense to
of
me.
more. I don't. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Selling less of. Oh no, that does make sense. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense actually. Okay. So the long tail. Really interesting book. By this author named Chris Anderson, and um, it's about the long tail phenomenon
It should
as a
be
phrase.
selling
Yeah.
more of less.
No, it's less of more. He's right because the long tail, the statistical curve. He's saying the curve gets longer and longer, so you sell less of the more, the
Right,
fathead.
but
Yeah.
but we want to sell the more of the less.
Yes, we want you will sell the
You
more of
want
the
the long
less.
tail. We,
Right,
we
right.
talk about the long tail. So I
He
don't want
said,
to ruin you,
yeah,
but
no, he's saying the future is selling less of the fat head and more of the long tail, right?
right. But is that the future we want? Is that my question? We don't want that.
No, we do.
We don't want to sell less of more.
Yes, I think that's what he's saying. He's oh no, hang on, let's before we get into the whole thing, let's chop this thing up really fast. So the book, like I said, it's called The Long Tail. Really good book. It's two-part reflection. Really enjoyed this one. I learned a lot. I learned a ton out of this book actually, and I'm not gonna lie, like I think this dude's like a modern day
You
Nostradamus or
should
something
never
like
lie.
that. Yeah, right. That's fair. Uh, I'm going to tell the truth and say, this guy's like a modern day Nostradamus or something like that. Like everything that he talked about in this book, it was written back in 2005. It's almost like he wrote it yesterday. And most of the predictions that he made were like just not most, almost every single thing that he talked about in this book was like so spot on and predicting what was going to be, 20 years, probably and even more down the road with this long tail phenomenon. So
Right.
the long tail, as it says, is really about the I'm just going to explain in my own words what the long tail is, right? Let's get this out of the way so everybody knows what the long tail is. So first and foremost, the reflection title for this one is called The Long Tail of Values, and I'll explain this in a second, right? So I actually found this book because I was I wrote in the beginning of this reflection that the compound effect strikes again. So my monthly challenge that I was doing, this was probably, when was this? Probably late fall or something like that that I read this book, and I was only maybe 3 or 4 months into my job, my new job for Club A Light that we've been doing all the stuff for, and I had I at that time I had been encouraging my team to do a personal monthly challenge and then like a work related monthly challenge. So we were doing dual monthly challenges,
Mm-hmm.
so I was obliging them as well, and I was obviously doing the same stuff because I care about this stuff, and this is stuff that I like to do myself. So I would never ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself, and so I did it. So in this particular month, I chose my
Well,
business.
sometimes.
What?
Sometimes.
Sometimes I wouldn't do something that I would
No,
encourage somebody else to do.
sometimes you would ask people to do something you wouldn't do yourself.
Like what?
Like, hey, True, go code something. I don't want to do
Oh,
it.
fair enough. Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Do you want to do
No, that's
it?
true. Well, I can't do that. I mean, if I can
You
do it,
don't want to. No,
yeah.
I think you can. I think you
Oh,
can.
I
You just don't
could. I
want
mean, right.
to.
I could not do it to the level that you were doing that at. Yes, I could do it. That's fair. I mean,
But
hell,
you
maybe
don't
I'll
want
go
to.
try.
Just
Hey,
like, hey, do my taxes. It's like,
right.
uh,
Yeah, it's true.
I wouldn't want to do
This,
it.
you already actually get about to jump me down into the wrong path because I was about ready to say like this opens up the whole closed versus open system after I read that Steve Jobs biography,
Uh-huh.
where he's all about closed system because artists, I trust artists, right? If you do what you love and you're really good at it, like you are always going to be way better at it than I'm ever going to get to, and I know that, and I know that for a fact, and I would rather just trust that you're going to do it and do it really well and do it really right, because you love it, right? Like, and I would ask for anybody else to say the same trust, have the same trust in me, that I'm what I love, the shit that I love to do, that I'm going to do it better than you're going to ever imagine doing it. So like trust me that I'm going to put every ounce of love into making whatever, crafting whatever solution you ask me to do, if I love doing the work that you're asking me to do. So that's why I'm in favor of closed systems, because I don't give a shit. I don't want to go make phones. Like, I don't want to go code my own platforms and whatever. Like, make it really, really nice, put your love into it, and then I'll just figure it out. And like I'll intuitively understand what you're doing, right? So I mean, that's my philosophy in general. I'm all about the closed system, man. Like, create your art, be an artist. Like, don't just put whack shit up there that people can,
Well, like I say,
hodgepodge together.
Everything is about individual alignment, because there's nothing universal in this world. Meaning
Right.
that somebody is aligned with closed system, somebody is aligned with open system. So
Sure.
to me,
Sure.
it depends on who you are. The right perspective is from your perspective.
Correct.
So your perspective is gonna be opposite someone else, so they can't take your perspective, and you can't go and point a finger and say, hey, you should do this, blah blah blah, right? You become a philosopher,
Yeah.
the person that you hate. And so
I
I think
agree.
that's the key, is to say, well, you know does it align with your core values? And if it does, then yeah, you're gonna have the advantage on whatever that's that you do.
Right.
And so
Agreed.
whether it's closed system or open system, is, are you against yourself?
Agreed. Yeah, and we can say that debate. Let's put that on the side, because that's going to come down the road. But onto the long tail side of everything. So I was challenging myself to do a business and a personal challenge on this particular month. I thought, hey, the CEO of the company I work at, he has a podcast. It's called The Great Digital Transformation, and because I was still relatively newbie to the company, I was like, hey, probably be good to learn about his philosophies and understand, I'm sure you're probably a little bit learn about his life, or how, his history or something like that. So I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try for like 15 minutes a day. There's only like 9 episodes of this podcast. And I was like, I'm going to try for like 15 minutes a day to like slowly work through all these episodes, and see what I can learn and absorb from just hearing his words. So I was listening to one of his podcasts, and one of his guests he had on the show was actually somebody that was a company that we acquired. And she works for did like a digital consulting, basically, for yeah, like, I mean, just digital consulting, right? Like for like consulting projects, on the front end of things, like digital strategy and things like that. So she was talking about answering a question, and she was like, it's like the long tail, like, like and blah 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 blah. And I was like, I fucking have heard this term. I know I've heard this term like a dozen times in my career in the tech world, or come across it in books or whatever it may be, and I'm like I don't know what it is. I was getting really annoyed with like hearing this word and not knowing what it means when people use it in context. It's like, it's the long tail, and I'm like, no, I don't know what is the long tail. It's like so I went to go look it up, and I found that it was written by this guy named Chris Anderson. It was the guy that coined the term, and he had magically written a book about it. It was called The Long Tail, right? It was originally just like a little article that he wrote, and I decided to expound on it and write this book about the long tail phenomenon, and I thought it was pretty damn interesting. So that was how I found this book in the first place, right? So I'm reading, I'm learning, and and basically I'm going to summarize the long tail in my own words. So this may not be exactly the way that Chris Anderson would say it, but this is how I visualize it, right? So the long tail is a statistical anomaly, where it's a statistical curve where this is your y-axis or your x-axis, and x is this way, right? Your y-axis and your x-axis. The curve would go like this. It never goes to zero. It starts off really, really high up here, and then it slowly goes down the curve, or pretty dramatically goes down the curve, and then it starts to level off, and it never approaches zero, but it keeps just going and going and going, right? Like, it never hits the x-axis ever. But really, what's that?
Asymptote.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
That means that line never hits the x.
There
It's
you
an
go.
asymptote. That's what they call
Asymptote.
it.
All right.
Asymptote.
Asymptote. All right.
Yes.
Whatever you call it. So it never touches zero. It can get close, but it never touches zero. So what this means and how this relates to like business and commerce is at the top of the fat head, they call it, up here on the top of the y-axis. These are like your hits. Think of these as like hits and niches,
Mm-hmm.
right? So your blockbuster movies, the Marvel, universe movies, the Thors, the Guardians of the Galaxies, whatever. These are fat heads. Like a lot of people are consuming this stuff, and one thing is being consumed by a lot of people, right? And then slowly as you go down the curve, people consume a little bit of less and less and less, and it just really drops off pretty dramatically. So you have these hits, like think of like the most popular songs, Taylor Swift, artists or whatever, or a book like Atomic Habits, that sold like 5 million copies in its first year, and you're like, what? That's the top of the fat head. A lot of people consuming, one thing, right? And it's like it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, like why it's up there, but a whole lot of people are consuming it up there. As you continue to go down the curve, people are still consuming stuff, but it drops off pretty dramatically in terms of the number of people consuming one particular item, right? Now, the long tail, as you continue to go down it, the best example I can give would be like Atomic Habits sold 5 million copies. The book that I wrote about my daughter Amelia, when I think in the first year sold like a couple hundred copies or something like that, right? It wasn't a ton, but there was a market for it. Is the point. So the point of the long tail is as you approach zero, it never approaches zero. There's always it never hits zero. There's always something for someone. And the theory of the long tail is as long as you can curate and filter and get the content to the right people, there's always going to be a niche market out there that somebody wants to consume something in this world. Think of Amazon.com, right? There's so many things you can go search on there, and you may only sell one or two items, but somebody's going to buy those one or two items. And when you add up all of the long tail, it actually dwarfs the actual fat head, side of the equation if you add it all up, right, and stack it up and up and up. But that's the long tail phenomenon. Does that make sense? I guess, did I explain that okay?
Yep.
All right. So now comes the thought that this spurred, right? Obviously, we talk a lot about values in this whole entire conversation. Well, one of the things that we've gotten really good at as a society of the long tail of a lot of things these days. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so many platforms out there help us to consume whatever we want to consume. Think of all the different streaming platforms out there, all the Spotify's, the Pandora's, the whatever. Like you can basically hear any random ass song that you've ever even somehow, they'll, as long as they can help you to find it, and it'll and they can understand your needs and how you listen to stuff and what you like they'll bring it to your attention, and they'll give you an opportunity to consume that song that you would have never heard in a million years, because you would have only been listening to the radio and you would have heard the same 15 songs or whatever that would have been on the radio that are the hit makers by Britney Spears back in the 1990s or something like that. And like that's your options, right? Like, with like a Spotify, you have so many options, and it's unending at this point in time. As long as it's accessible and they can help you to filter and find it, like they will.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon's another great example, all these other things, right? So in all these different areas of our life, the long tail effect is going on, revolutionizing how we consume things in this world, right? Well, one of the areas that I feel like is ripe for a revolution, that we don't have anything, a platform or something like that to service, that is value consumption. So we have a very fat head centric values distribution in this world, really. You think of these massive cultures and these massive values that are being submitted out to the masses. You don't really have a whole lot of choices to consume different cultures in this world, right? You have the Catholic Church, you have the United States of America, you have the business that you work for, you have the state that you live in, the local government, whatever. Like there's a lot of values that you get, but there's not from cultures, and they're very dominant values, but they're not really your values, right? Like, let's just call a spade a spade. Like when I worked at Salesforce or OSF Digital or Angie's List or whatever, like in my career, like none of these places are Chris Sears, right? Like none of these places are, if I were to make my own values list, which we all have been exploring this whole entire thing, they don't really align to that. But I have to choose that, right? That's all I get. It's just, it's no different than being on the radio back in the 90s or the 80s or whatever. Like, you know what? Do I like Queen? I don't know, but this is all I get to choose from when I hear it on the radio, right? Like I get to hear Queen, Prince, or Billy Joel or something like that. So like I like Billy Joel, I guess. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, is there somebody else out there that I might like more than Billy Joel? Probably. But like I can't hear them. I don't have that. I don't have the access to that, right? To those kind of cultures. So So my theory is one of the things that there is no platform yet for is like the long tail of values, right? So everybody's got unique values in this world, and everybody has unique cultures they would want to align those values to if they could. If you could figure out, if cultures were able to be, bottled up and somehow distributed, and you could find it and you could, exchange like, and find where that is, right? And in a weird way, that's kind of what we're trying to do with Clubany in a lot of ways, right? Like we're trying to build cultures within cultures and allow people to figure out what their values are, and then attach themselves to cultures that align to their meaningful that provides meaning to them, right? That's very tailor-made to these particular individual audiences. That's very nichey, right? Like we're not trying to be just one culture that's like, this is our values, take it or leave it, and we're going to dominate the world, we're going to Google you, and we're going to Facebook you or something like that, of like, this is our values, disrupt the world, or what's Apple's values?
Think different.
Think different. Yeah, like think different. Here's our values. We think different. Like anyway, like, do you get where I'm going with this? I guess in a weird way, we're very highly concentrated in our values distribution.
Right. We are conditioned to look for the fathead
and values and cultures
in anything.
Right.
We are conditioned to look for the fathead because
yes,
people say, okay, I'm going to give you $100,000 today, or I can give you $10 for 100 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So people say, well, I'll take $100,000. So same thing with people say, hey, I want to get rich real quick. Get rich scheme. They do not want to have the long tail, which you and I in Clubany advocate for is sustainability. That is where the long tail comes in, because a long tail in our scenario, you look at the y-axis, which is the number of values, and you look at the x-axis, this is the time frame, like year, because you have to be able to elongate that time. And so a lot of people, when let's say we're going to build a company, instead of building a company with 5 values, they say, hey, I'm going to have 100 values. I'll take anyone. They're going to have to align with one of the 100 values. So that's a fathead we're talking about. But that's not sustainable. It's only sustainable for like a short term, maybe a year, 2 years. Before that, it becomes gone. But if you and I focus on a certain core value,
like that's not totally true, because you could always align to, you could belong. Like I still like Marvel movies, right? Like, I mean, it's not like I'm not going to watch them. I still go to a Catholic church. I still am a Catholic, like, and I'm okay with that. Like I may not fully.
but you're talking about the essence of the long tail. The long tail is essentially, let's say you and I have 24 hours to do things, right? Instead of me and you doing 100 core values, we don't do like 2-3 core values, and we do it for 40, 50 years, 100 years, right? That's long tail, because I'm only focused on the small, the less of the core value, but I'm doing it so long. But
there's endless combinations of values out there, endless. I mean, like that are unique to everybody, right? Sorry,
but that's the thing, is the concentrations of the activity of core values that I do and you do, that over time it amasses to something huge that will trump any fathead, because fathead is essentially a trend. Something happens and then you get it. So one example I can give you is remember the movie Con Air with Nicolas Cage? So there's a song called How Do I Live, right? So Trisha Yearwood beat out LeAnn Rimes for the right to sing the song in the movie. But then LeAnn Rimes get the right to sing it in the radio afterward.
Right.
So the thing is, Trisha Yearwood get this big bang, big payday, like right then after the movie release. It's a big hit. She got a bunch of money. But LeAnn Rimes have the right to sing it after that. You think about that, a big fat head and a long tail. Who you think has the most royalties?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure LeAnn Rimes. I've listened to that song
exactly. I mean,
times,
it still runs today.
I didn't even realize Trisha Yearwood even sang that, to be honest with you.
Exactly. So that's a perfect example of what I mean by big head and a long tail. It's to kind of put into perspective. So essentially, in our case scenario, we are focusing on the values that give us the best fit for who we are, and we spend our time and focus on those values rather than chasing all the values that is the in the vicinity of you know uh, alignment, right?
Right.
We want the one that give us the most optimal fulfillment based on what kind of person we are, based on our genes and the DNA. And so
Right.
the core functionality is that if I were able to do certain things, and if I can take it a long way down the line, that in itself, because it's small enough, but it's so long enough that that accumulation is going to trump any fathead that you do today. That means like
Well,
there's no way I can spend 24 hours trying to program something, blah blah blah, or I can do like maybe an hour a day on these core values of things that I like.
right.
But eventually, I'm doing this for 3 years, and I just say, well, you and I doing this for 3 years, really? I didn't. It didn't feel like this that long. So the trick to this thing is that if you don't align with your core value, the long tail doesn't work. But the long tail is going to give you the just like the hare and the tortoise,
Right. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
The long tail is that sustainability
It's a slow
that will
burn,
give
Yeah.
you the win at the end. Because
Right.
without that, you won't win. But if you are not aligning to continue to forge a path down that route, it's very hard. It is not going to be easy for you because you are eating a frog every day, using willpower every day to try to force that path. But if something
Right.
is aligned with you, it just like it pulls you forward. It pulls you forward. Say, hey, yeah, I gotta chase it. I gotta chase it. I gotta eat more cake. I gotta play more tennis. I gotta play more pickleball. Right. And
Right.
so the long tail is going to be the I guess in the end you're gonna
It's a
in the
one to
game
it's one to one. I
analogy,
mean,
you're gonna trump the fathead. But in order for you to get the long tail, it has to align with what you want to do. If not, then you would not sustain it. That's why people like the fathead. Because people say, well, I can do this project, and I can do this
yeah.
entrepreneurship for like, hey, I can do it for 2 years and I get big fat check and I retire. Because the
Right.
thing is, for them, they want that get rich quick scheme to get them
Sure.
out because they cannot sustain the long, because they can't say, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur for life. I'm an entrepreneur. No, I'm not an entrepreneur. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you never think yourself as an entrepreneur. You say, hey, I just like to do these things,
I'm
right?
just doing shit.
And
Yeah.
I'm not quitting. I'm not even thinking about starting because this is what I want to do.
Right.
I would rather pay to do this thing. Just like you rather pay to play tennis. Nobody
Right.
pays you to play tennis,
Right.
right? And so the mentality of human society today is everything is about the big fat head. It's about the short term, the
Well,
uh,
it's chosen for you, is what it is, right? Like fathead is chosen for you.
we're
Like
conditioned for that.
yeah. No, I mean that no, it's literally chosen for you. Like I mean, it's like I'm going to pick the things that are the best cultural alignments with the values that make up a culture, right? Like that's what is the DNA of a culture is
Well,
underlying our
common
values,
values
right?
make a
Right.
culture.
What's that? Yeah, well, yes, common values, but I'm saying like these cultures, these massive cultures, these fat head cultures, like the United States, right, is a fat head culture. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We are all, in some way, shape, or form, kind of agree to that if we're going to live in this country, right? And we all say, you know what? I kind of agree with that. Maybe that's not 100% or all me, but like I agree to that enough. So I'm gonna go consume that as something that I identify with. The Catholic faith, is another, packaging up of values into a culture where you go, I kind of like that. There's some of the shit that I don't agree with, but I kind of like it, and it seems like a lot of other people do it. So it's just right in front of my face. It's easy. It's right there. I'm gonna go do that. Like then you keep going down the line. You have your job. You have Facebook. You have whatever. Like I see this as like the fat head options of cultures and the values that consume in those cultures is what I'm visualizing as we're going further and further down the curve. Down the curve, the more and more you go, there is a culture for you out there that really aligns almost identically to a few other people that are very similar to you out there in this world, right? And you can go build that culture. It's just really hard to find them. What I'm saying is if you can package up the values in a right way, give them the ability to filter and find the people that have the exact same values as you, that it is your chosen values and it is what their chosen values are, like connecting those people together and allowing them to go form cultures is what I'm saying is the long tail of because there's always something for every. The whole point of the long tail is not necessarily that it like is a slower burn or a longer burn. It's just that there's something for everybody along the curve, right? Like as long as you can match it up right and you can find them, and allow people to find them, you can then connect, like even more connect, right? Like you can say I'm choosing this culture 100% because this is me. Like these are my people. This is my tribe, right? Like it's the fat head of tribes, basically, right? Like it's your tribe that you don't get to your point. Like if I went and worked at Facebook, I'm like, I kind of like this shit. Like, I mean, these people are all right. Like, I mean, like Salesforce is a great example. Like diversity, innovation, equality was one of the. Oh, sorry, it was equality, innovation, customer success, and shit, I don't even remember the last one. It's like growth, maybe, or something like that. I can't remember what the fourth one was. It doesn't matter. Either way, like equality does not align to anything that I really care about, right? Like innovation, maybe, a little bit. Like, customer success, I don't really give a shit about that either, because that's product specific. Growth, I can probably get behind that a little bit. My point is like that's nowhere near Chris Sears's values, right? Like, I mean, if there's the fat head of this culture, that's a fat head culture. There's a lot of people that are like, it's easy to access Salesforce as a culture and the values they do. Yeah, they made it easy. I'll go that route, right? I'm saying we need to make it available for somehow lift up other cultures out there that are made up of values that others can find that they connect with. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say?
No, it
Not
doesn't
at
make
all.
sense at all.
Okay.
I
All
mean,
right.
I'm completely confused
So
because you think about, man, if you
here,
think about a chart, right? A two-dimensional chart. You have something on the y-axis and have something on the x-axis. If you say, let's say we're talking about culture in Salesforce, so what would be on the y-axis? You're talking about number of people trying to be like the number of people, popularity, for example, right? And
right.
versus the people inside of those organizations practicing those core values for over a long time. So
Right.
if you put it that way, I can understand. But if you're talking about
Here.
the culture of Salesforce and your culture, to
Here.
me,
This
it doesn't correlate.
this is what I'm saying. So the long tail is about is a one line. It's like Harry Potter is consumed by a shitload that is purchased by a lot of people. There's a million books you've never heard of that you could hear of.
Right. And I understand the concept of long tail and fathead, but I just don't understand how you relate
If
that to the
this is a
culture.
culture, right? Like there's a billion Catholics in the world, right? Like that's a fat head culture, right? Like
Right.
there's 80,000 employees that work at Salesforce. That's a fat head culture.
Right.
There's 330 million people that live in America. That's a fat head culture. I'm saying that we live in a world dominated by fat head cultures. There's not, as you go down the curve, there is cultures out there for you that align exactly to who you are and who you want to
Mm-hmm.
be. There are
Mm-hmm.
tribes does this make sense of what I'm trying to say?
Right, right. So
Like,
there are so many individualized culture that is in the long tail,
yes.
but that has nothing to do with the long tail concept because long tail concept is the concept of long tail is the area under the curve is going to be better than the area of the fathead.
It
But
is.
when you're
That's what I'm saying.
talking about the culture, you and I will only pick one of the culture inside of the area of the tail. So
No,
it
no,
doesn't
no.
make relevant.
You could pick
No,
a
you can't. Okay, okay. The only way mathematically it makes sense is you take the area, compute the area under the long tail, and
Mhm.
compute the area under the fathead. The result area of
Yeah, when
the
you stack
long
them on.
tail, it is going to be huge compared to the fathead.
I agree. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
why you say the long tail has the advantage. But
Right.
in the case of a fathead culture like Salesforce, Catholic Church, whatever, in our case, right, we don't encompasses. Let's say we have the Catholic Church fathead on the first one, the Salesforce fathead, and then the Google fathead or whatever. So those things. So you say, well, you can align to the Google culture, you can align to the
Right.
Catholic culture or the Salesforce culture. But then you say, well, that doesn't fit me, so I'm going down the long tail. I'm going to say, well, all these individual culture, you, Chris, have a culture, True has a culture,
No, no,
Blake
no, no,
has a
no, no,
culture, right?
no. There are other cultures that exist in this world of
Right,
groups.
but the thing is,
Culture is just
they
values that a group of people share, right? Is all I'm
yes,
saying.
exactly. So you're talking
Yeah.
about the culture of Google, right?
Right.
100,000 people share that culture,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
That's why it's called big fat hat,
Right.
right? Let's
Mhm.
say there's a company culture. There's only two people in there, right?
Sure.
So there is a blip.
But
We
if
belong
we could help other people to find
but we
our
belong in the
long tail.
we are one of the blip inside the long tail.
Yeah.
But in this case, that blip is only our benefit, and our calculation only counts that blip, not the whole long tail, because the long tail is like, let's say there is a company culture, and there is a, let's say there is a Chris Sears racquetball
Global.
culture,
Sure.
right?
Right.
Right. So the Chris Sears racquetball culture, I can't use that because I don't align with that culture, right? I'm saying.
I know. I mean, that's no different than books. Like, I mean, that I like
No, no,
just
no.
because
I understand, but the thing is that I think the concept of the long tail is that it's better only if you can take it and you can accumulate the area under it. That means like, hey, like for example, Leanne Rhyme, right? She sings all the songs. She's getting like, hey, royalties for every single time a radio is being used, or somebody using her music in some kind of a business setting, whatever. She get like maybe a dollar here, 99 cents there, whatever. So she's getting all the, but she's getting all of them. She's not like getting one of them, right? She's getting all of them
wait.
combined
Wait.
together.
How does she get all those combined together? It's through
Because
platforms like Spotify. Like is the point, like this is what I'm saying, is like we need to build a platform for people to post their cultures out there. And then we can connect. I'm saying that there are cultures out there all over the
but you talk about culture inside of the fat head and long tail, so
no,
you're mixing oranges and apples.
no, I'm not. No, I'm not. No. So what I'm saying is there is no real easy way. There's an easy way to find cultures. Like it's called, businesses, religion, nation states, like places like that, right? Like there's easy ways to find fathead cultures out there in this world, right? There is not an easy way to find long tail cultures out there in this world, right? Long tail cultures meaning,
But the thing
places
is,
that,
that's what I'm saying. It doesn't benefit me. So basically, I cannot utilize the concept of long tail to get a benefit to me, because when I'm finding something, right, I am only finding one of the culture under the long tail. So the long tail, you're not using it the right way.
I think I am. Uh, I'm saying that there needs to be a platform to help people find cultures that align to them.
But that has nothing to do with the long tail as far as the culture is concerned. You're talking about the long
No,
tail
yeah.
of a platform, yeah, but not the long
Yes.
tail of a culture.
No. I'm not talking about the long tail of a. I'm talking about a platform to help people to connect to the long tail of cultures that exist in this world that they don't have access to at this point in time. Like they just don't know. Like it is really hard to find cultures that align to your unique values that are, or at least closer to it than the places you work or the countries you live in or the places you go to church at or whatever. I'm saying like there needs to be a way to unlock the long tail of values
So let me
platforms
ask
out.
you this thing. What's
Yeah.
the advantage of having a long tail?
You add it all up and it's bigger than the fathead.
Exactly. You have to add them all up to have it, to have the advantage of a long tail.
Yeah, I know.
But
Right.
if I'm going through the platform and I'm looking for a culture that is sitting under long tail, I'm only picking one of the culture. I'm not picking all the culture. I can't add them out.
No, you can have multiple cultures. You want like pickleball,
But
tennis, clubbing,
yeah,
whatever.
you
I
can
mean, like,
have multiple culture, but it's like maybe 5 culture at best. You don't calculate
sure.
all the thousands of culture under
I
the
mean,
long
I
tail.
don't listen to thousands and thousands of songs. I only listen to, a couple, like 20, 30 or something like that. I mean, I might save like 100 or something like that on my Spotify, but like, I mean, it's not like
Right, but I'm saying
gajillion
is
Netflix shows.
I'm saying is the reflection title today is long tail. Okay, the long
Right.
tail is a concept, just like the auto run downhill. It's a concept. How do we use a concept
Yeah.
to
That's what I'm
give
saying.
us an advantage, right?
Right.
To give us, meaning me and you, the readers, the listeners, and the
Right.
audiences, how do I use it? So the concept of a long tail is how do I use that concept to benefit me? And you're talking about having a platform that I can go and find a culture.
Right.
Well, yes, that is great, but that's a different kind of a benefit. It's not a long tail benefit. The long tail benefit is something that you
It is
can
for,
accumulate.
wait, it is though. If you can find cultures that you align with, and there's an easier way to do that.
It's a benefit, but it's not a long tail benefit. It just happens to be under a long tail, but it's not a long tail benefit. So
Okay,
think.
what's the benefit of a culture? Like, I mean, this is one of the things that I think that maybe I
So let
could.
me give you an example of a long tail. Okay, a long tail could be say, okay, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, so I can from today until the 3 months, I'm gonna be in the gym 5 hours a day. Right, that's a fat head.
Right.
Or I could take 15 minutes a day and I will do just 15 minutes of weight or exercise, and over a long run, right, that to me is a long tail because that
That-
accumulates.
That's
So anything,
that's not what the long tail is. True. Like I mean, I know what you're saying. That's you're talking about. You are literally talking about the tortoise and the hare.
no,
I'm
no, but I'm talking about give me a
long tail
definition
is a
of a long tail
consumption.
and give me
It,
the benefit of a long tail. To me, it
it,
doesn't make sense
it
from that
it's
perspective.
it's a consumption. Like the long tail in business is what this book is about, is a consumption thing, right? Like there is somebody consuming shit and on all the whole spectrum, right? Like I'm saying the long tail business idea that he talks about in this book is if you can build a platform to connect to help people to filter and to find their niches that are out there, let
Right.
them
So
create that, build that,
you
share it.
cover a larger area, but you are serving a small number of niches. Right. That's what I'm
When
saying
you
is
serve a
that's
small number of niches and you add it all up, it actually is serving a larger population than
right.
the Catholic Church or something like that.
That makes
Right.
sense because that
Yeah,
is talking
that's what
about
I'm
the
saying.
platform leveraging the long
Yes,
tail concept.
right. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the long tail of values and cultures. Like we want our people to be able to connect with all different kinds of the cultures that matter to them. And if we can do this at scale, then it'll add up to be way stronger than, Salesforce
No,
or the Catholic Church,
no,
or
no, no.
if we have a platform.
You're talking about making a
Clubany won't do
platform.
that.
No, the platform is what leverages and
Yes,
got benefit from the long tail concept, but has nothing to do with your culture is better than Salesforce culture. It
no,
makes
I didn't.
no sense.
I didn't say that. I said
You just did.
no. I said the very end of this is I want somebody to bring a platform where we can create our own value driven cultures and not the other way around. Like you can't choose back in remember back in the
Right. I
90s,
mean,
like when
I don't disagree with what you say in terms of that, but it doesn't relate to the long tail concept. That's what I'm saying.
it doesn't relate to Clubany. Like I'm not trying to say that Clubany is going to somehow become a fat head or something like that by on the cult. I don't want it to become a fat head
It
on the
will
culture
be
thing.
a fat head because the thing
It
is
could
the
be.
culture. Well, it could be a fat head, but the thing is that to me is irrelevant to the long tail concept, right? The long tail concept is like, okay, how do how do you create a advantage knowing what a long tail is?
The only advantage that anybody garner from the long tail phenomenon is if you are the serving entity that is helping people to connect the niches like on the long tail, like i.e. an Amazon, right? Like Amazon doesn't make anything. They don't do anything. All they do is connect you to shit that other people make on a very and gobble up the whole long tail, right? Like if you want to go, buy the most common items, like go to Walmart or Target or something like that. Like that wasn't what Amazon was built for. It was to go buy the niche shit that people didn't carry, and that was why they, now you go buy everything off Amazon, but like that wasn't what they were created for. It's creating a marketplace.
Right. I understand. I
for
understand.
consumption.
I understand the advantage of Amazon using a long tail, because Amazon, it's long tail from the Amazon perspective. Is I'm Amazon. I read the long tail and I understand the concept. How do I apply that long tail concept to Amazon?
Right. They don't
So
have
what
anything for
Amazon so what Amazon did, what they did is, instead of, having a bunch of widget A,
that.
right? Have 1,000 widget A, widget B, widget C. Instead of having 1,000 of those, they have, a
A
1,000
couple.
different
Right.
product, but only like five quantity of a book, 5 quantity of a cup, 5 quantity.
Right.
So that's a long tail. But all those things is sold by Amazon. The 5 books, 5 cups, 5 whatever.
Yeah.
It's still Amazon, and those accumulate together.
That's what I'm
They
saying.
create this massive revenue for Amazon.
Right.
That is how you apply the long tail to your benefit.
Right. That's what I thought of. That's what I've been saying the whole time. Like I'm saying, like
But I don't understand
somebody
what
is
you're saying in terms of the culture, because the culture, it doesn't work that way, because you can't accumulate that under one thing, right? As a culture. So
you can. We could post Clubany on an Amazon.com. Let's call Amazon.com a cultural platform. We post our little group on there, and people either find it or they don't find it, right? Like
right, but the thing is, you're talking about an Amazon. What the concept of long term Amazon is, they have like 1,000 titles of book, but they have only like 5 copies of each of those books, versus
right.
5.
And they let demand figure out what's
right,
going to
but
move or
we were
not, right?
talking about per title, the volume is only 5.
Maybe
So
only 2 or 3 people find
culture,
Clubany and enjoy it.
no, per culture, i.e. Clubany culture, there's only 5 people. So it makes it gives me no benefit, because I don't really care about the other culture. I don't care about Clubany culture.
Right.
So in that perspective, it makes no sense to me.
You may want to go explore other cultures that also align to you. I mean, like, you don't have to be committed to one culture or one culture only. You already subsequently live in multiple cultures.
Right.
Like,
I have that, but that's the thing is, I can say, well, I'm going to become a Clubany culture. I'm also become a coding culture. I
right.
probably be a gardening culture, but how many of those can I have? So even if I have 10 culture, I can't have. No, you can have how many as you want.
Why not? You can have as many as you want. Like, I mean,
1,000? You have 1,000?
Why not? Like this
come on, Chris. Yeah, I think you're just being argumentative. Just for
no, I'm not. I really am
can
not.
You have 1,000 culture?
Why not? I mean, like, I don't understand why you couldn't.
Because you can't.
If there are people out there that like the shit that you like to do,
no,
then go for it.
No, you cannot have 1,000 culture.
Can you have 1,000 books?
Much. 1,000 books to do what?
To read.
You can consume 1,000 books, but you can't really say, "Hey, I'm going to practice." The thing is, what's the point of a culture if I'm going to do it once?
Well, that's the point. I don't know. You decide. That's the point of.
I mean, you have 24 hours a day, and you're telling me that inside of Club and culture we have 5 to 7 values. I live my values of 5, right? That's one culture. I go over there in another culture. How much time do I have in a day to practice 1,000 fucking culture?
Not well. That's no different than how much time do you have to read 1,000 books, right? Like, I mean, like,
No. Books you can read, but you can read, but it accumulates up. But as a culture is concerned, a culture is something you practice every day, right? It's not a one-time thing. It's a lifetime thing. If not, then there's no point in practicing that culture. So,
all right, fair.
In terms of culture, it doesn't fit. And so I'm saying is, I don't understand what you're saying when you talk about culture, because culture to me is something I'm doing. Like, hey, I'm reading every day. I'm learning every day, right? That's a culture. It's not like, oh, I learned once. Now I'm going to the next culture, right? And the next culture say, I'm going to to be competitive. I'm going to be competitive for once, and then I'm going to do something else. Oh, I'm going to
Okay,
be
okay, okay. All
I'm
right.
going to
So
be like adventurous in another
right.
culture.
You
I'm going to be
can't
adventurous
play
one
every
time.
sport. Like you
No,
can't
no,
play
you
every
can't.
sport.
You can't.
You can
I
only
mean,
play a few sports.
you can't play pickleball and tennis all
Right.
at once because
Right.
your body's giving out.
Right. No, I get that, but like, that doesn't change the fact that you still might want to find that culture that aligns to you, and through a platform. It may not be as mass consumption as
Right.
Amazon does, where it's
I
right.
don't deny that there's benefit to having a platform. And that's great, but that has nothing to do with the long tail perspective.
It does, because I'm saying there's a culture out there for everyone.
Right.
That aligns to them. Like
Yes.
I just feel like so
So
many people
you
don't realize that. It can be
yeah, so you basically have this lookup culture lookup system.
right, right.
That lookup system can look up any culture, whether it's a little culture or a big
Right.
culture, right? It has nothing to
Meetup
do
is
with
kind of like that. I mean,
well, it
in a
has
weird way.
nothing to do with the long tail relationship between fat head and long tail.
Yes, it does. There's some of those cultures are going to be incredibly lucrative. The Catholic Church could be on the same platform, and you'd be like, oh well, a lot of people join that one, and then a lot of people don't join, Clubany for whatever reason. It's just not doesn't appeal to everybody or something like that. Like this is their particular
Yeah,
culture, right?
I think you lost me on the logic. I can't follow you, dude.
I can see this in my head, like very clearly. Like I'm on meetup.com basically, but it's like, for cultures, right? And I'm on here and I'm like, oh, okay, find the cultures that align to
Right.
you. Okay, here's my values. Here's what I like to do. Blah blah blah. Filter. Oh, hey, there's this thing out there. It's called Clubany that, like, it's like blah 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 blah. Check it out. Like, here you go. Like, and then all of a sudden we have people that are like, oh, this looks pretty damn cool. Like, what do you guys do there? Like,
Well,
maybe we can
explain
check it
that
out.
in terms of the long tail. I mean,
That is the long tail. That is what I'm saying.
what is the long tail?
The long tail is finding the niche things that align to you, that's specific to what you care
Yeah,
about,
but I
versus the
find the
fatheads or
niche.
what everybody has
I
available.
find the niche. This is one
Sure.
among the millions.
Right.
The long tail concept, it says that the long tail, all of the small pieces, let's say you do a 80-20, that means that anything that is 20 to 80 you count as a fathead. Anything
Right.
that below 20 over a long time, you count everything
Yeah.
cumulatively.
You count
And
all the
then
cultures out there in this world and add it all up. I'm sure it trumps
but you
the.
add them all up, but a person cannot consume all the culture. So
I'm
from
not trying to
his
consume all the
perspective,
stuff. You can't consume all the shit on
then
Amazon.
therefore, the long tail does not apply here.
I don't know why you keep saying everything that I agree with, and then you say therefore the long tail doesn't apply. Like, I mean, it absolutely applies. Like the long tail, you can't consume everything anyway. Like nobody can consume everything. The point is to consume what aligns to you.
I
That
mean,
is the long tail.
it's like me telling you E equal MC squared. All you have to do is take light and square it.
Right. I guess we're not connecting on something here of what this means to me and what it means to you. I'm saying that, like, when you're on, I mean, I guess I'll try this, like I'll try to say this again in maybe in a different way. I don't know. Like, I understand what the long tail is, right? Like, I think I understand what you're saying the long tail is too. Like this is the perfect example. This is each line on the long tail that makes up the fat head and the long tail is something to be consumed along this whole journey. Do you agree to that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the cultures that are consumed the most in this world at this point in time are things like nation states, religions, large businesses, things like that. Do you agree to that? So
Mm-hmm.
you could change Harry Potter to say the Catholic Church. You could say the Lord of the Rings to be, the China, or something like that, right? Like you could, like you can keep going down and down and down the list, right? Like, I'm saying that, like, people choose the fathead things up here because they're just so widely known. Everybody knows China. Everybody knows the Catholic Church. And you're like, oh well, I'll consume that if I could. Because that's all that we know that we can consume. If you knew that there were other cultures out there in this world that were uniquely closer, more similar to who you think you are, like, then you would want to go consume those as well. But a lot of people don't know they exist. Like the long tail of these cultures, like nobody knows the clubany exists out there, right? Like, you know, like we don't talk about this. Like we don't have monasteries and temples and you know, whatever, all these other publicity things, you know, Salesforce towers for people to see. Oh, what's Salesforce? You know, like we don't have clubany, all that other stuff, right? How is somebody going to find clubany, right? Like, is the point, right? Like it exists. We clearly care about this particular culture, and somebody else out there I know in this world will really care and want to take part in it. We've already come across many people that have engaged and enjoyed the experience of doing the stuff that we care about doing as well. So what I'm saying is, you go down this curve, like clubany would be like way the fuck down here at the end of this, at the end of the long tail, right? Somebody out there needs to be able to find us. Somebody needs to find a way to help us all, whether we build it ourselves or whether somebody does. Like, I want to find a way to connect people to cultures that align to them, that exist in this world, and that we all know exist in this world, but they don't know where they are. They don't know how to connect them.
Then
Like,
company become a big fat hat.
that's not what. Well, I guess you could build the clubany platform if you wanted to. Sure.
No, if you create a system, like I say, I think you and I have a different understanding of what a long tail really is. Because for me is, if I were to say, well, if I have something and I wanted to leverage a long tail methodology, right? A long tail strategies, how would I implement that? That's the question I would ask myself, right? So if I say I'm company, how would I implement a long tail strategy?
Long tail isn't a strategy. Like, the long tail is just a statistical distribution curve of consumption.
Yes, but it does have a reflection. Reflection is a lesson that you learn from it. Statistically or not, it creates this inspiration of how do I create. Like, if you think about Amazon, right? Amazon creates this long tail for themselves to make them the most powerful retailer in the world today.
Yeah,
Because instead of
platform.
focusing on 100 items
Right.
with thousands of quantities, right? Which is like, Walmart, like Lowe's, Home Depot. They
Right.
only
Yeah.
stack certain items.
Right.
It's
They
like
have
limited
inventory capacity. Right.
number of types of items they
Right.
have, right? But they have a large quantity. Those are fathead. But if I'm
Right.
Amazon, I say, well, I know that long tail over time is gonna beat this fathead. I'm gonna implement Amazon to be a long tail company.
Right.
In doing so, I'm going, instead of doing what Home Depot did, which is stock 100 items and have thousand of quantity per those 100 items, I'm going to stock a million different items, but I'll have only like 10 quantity per
Right.
items. So that is a long tail. But all of the sales of those 10, the quantity of 10 among the million, it adds up to my revenue. So in that case, it makes sense to me, logically, it makes sense to me, the long tail strategy implementation has an advantage, because people are gonna buy a little here, little there, but they buy so many different variety, because they're in the world, there's so many different kind of people, and they'll buy different things at different time. If I go to Home Depot, even if I have 1,000 2x4, I only want, like, hey,
Yeah.
10
They
people
unlock
want,
capacity.
right? And so the sales of Home Depot, the revenue of Home Depot based on the fathead is going to be so small compared to the Amazon revenue.
Yeah. It's capped.
In that case, I understand what long tail advantages gives me.
Yeah. I mean,
But
Salesforce can only be so big, you know?
but
Like, I mean,
from a culture perspective, where you're gonna go and find a culture on the long tail, because I go and I find a culture, a blip in the long tail, right? I can only align to that one blip. I'm not aligning to all the little blip, and add them together,
I
because,
agree. Sure.
right,
I mean,
because
maybe you can align to two or three. I mean, or maybe
right.
even.
So the long tail doesn't apply here. It doesn't give me the benefit here.
Everything that you just said, I agree with, until you said the long tail doesn't apply here. I don't know how, because everything you said to me says the long tail absolutely applies here. Like the whole point of the long tail is to connect the niche shit with the masses.
But it doesn't work for me.
You're not like, you don't need to worry about you as a consumer. Like Amazon isn't a company that sells anything. They sell everything. Like, right? Like they're just a platform that helped you to filter and
Right. So
find the
if you
products.
talking about the platform and using that as a long tail, yes, I agree with you. Makes
That's
sense to
that's what
me.
I've been saying the whole time. We need to build a platform to help people to find
But
great
that has
cultures.
nothing to do with the what that has nothing to do with the talk of YOMO. The YOMO is we're talking about the concept of long tail as a individual, not as the one person trying
I,
to build this platform.
okay, so let's go back in time to the reflection, right? I said I'm the long tail of values really got me thinking. Like values or systems of cultures, value systems of culture seem to be highly concentrated at the head of the curve in the modern day world, like big businesses, educational institutions, religions, right? Like it seems like we get just shoved into these we have no options other than these, really popular cultures out there, right? Like this is what we get shoved into. And I'm like, that doesn't fit me. Like that isn't who I want to be. I want to find a culture out there that is based on a value system that is more similar to me, is what I'm saying, right? Like, and luckily you and I found each other, right? Like, and we're building our own culture, but like this is really hard. What we're doing is really, really, really hard. It's hard to build a culture. I'd rather just go find a culture out there that already exists and that happens to be more in alignment to
I
me
mean, I
than to
don't
do.
think we're building any culture. A culture, it just happens because the thing is, you're talking about DDO and DDI, right?
Right,
DDO automatically exists as long as you have DDI. And
right.
to build a culture, it's like thing is, yes, we can build a culture. Meaning, you and I can get together. We are aligned. We are doing things we want to do,
Right.
and because you and I have common value, that automatically creates a
It's a
culture.
culture. Right,
And you
exactly.
want to grow the culture, then yes, it creates hard work because you can say, well, I want to go and I want to spread this, right? And
Right.
if that's the effort, then yeah, it could be hard because how do I find people that's going to align with these values?
This is
But the point I'm trying to make is I don't really care if anyone goes to company culture
Oh,
because
I know. I'm not saying I
because
care either. I'm saying that other people do though. People want to align to the cultures that, like, what you and I are doing is the hardest of the hardest thing ever. We are starting a culture from scratch, and we are.
well, to me it doesn't. I mean, maybe to you, but for me is I don't feel like it's hard at all
It's not hard
because
for us.
because I'm
We
not
enjoy
trying to
this,
build
right?
culture. I'm trying to become this DDI,
I agree. But
right?
it
So
is
so
not
this
hard for
DDI,
us.
this DDI is
Yeah.
so easy, and you have two DDI, it becomes a DDO, which is a culture.
Yes, I agree, true. Like I think that you and I can both agree what you and I have done together is from an outsider's perspective is fucking hard. Like we've put in a shitload of work to figure out what this DDI, how to be two DDIs to form a DDO, right? Like I mean, this is a lot of hard work. Like it is
But
not
it wasn't a
church.
deliberate DDO. It's deliberate DDI, right?
Correct, but hang on. Somebody did this with the Catholic Church initially. It's a lot of fucking hard work. Like, yeah, they did it 1,000 years ago. Like, and now it's,
Well, we don't know that. We don't. They could be
oh
doing
yes, they
just
did.
like we do. Right? They didn't
They
say, "Oh,
did.
I'm gonna have this fucking
No, they,
grand scheme of trying to,
it's not a grand
get."
scheme. They just
No,
did what
it's
they like
not
to do, and
exactly
right.
exactly. And my point is the same. Is that
Same thing with Salesforce, with Google, with Apple.
you just do you, be you,
This,
and let people know who you really are.
that
People, when
this is
people
my point.
find you, right, they go on the form,
But this
and
is my point, though. Is it is you want people to know who we are. If cultures aren't growing, they're dying, right? Like we want to bring more. You and I in our happiest of happiest scenarios would
but the thing
be
is, it
we have
doesn't matter
hundreds of
if it
thousands of
dies
people that
because
are all
the
DDIs
thing
in our
is,
DDO.
to me, this is the way I see it, Chris. Like to me, as long as I live the way that I want as a DDI,
Yeah,
right? To me, that is a culture that it won't die until I die. And if I
I
die,
know.
I don't give a fuck.
I know. I understand. Like you don't care if this culture becomes ever a fathead culture. I get it. Like I agree. I don't really care either. But like the point of what I'm getting at is we don't necessarily care if it moves up the curve to be a fathead culture, right? Like, I mean, we both agree on that, right? Like, I don't really care either way. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, I don't care.
Not my priority. I
Right.
don't care.
I don't care.
I don't care if people finds us, right?
Right.
As long as I get to do what I want to do, I
Exactly.
don't mind if people find us and want to join us, but I don't care to put an effort in to go out and try to recruit them. I don't fucking care. Like if you go my way, join me. If not,
true.
Move along.
You just said the same thing that 98.9 or 99.9% of the people on Amazon say. I just like to make soap. I don't really give a fuck if somebody finds it. Etsy, like, I just like to make, I just like to whittle little tiny, wood statues. I don't really give a shit if somebody finds it, but I'll throw it on Etsy. There's a platform where somebody can find it and they'll go, hey, I really like your little tiny whittled wooden statue.
That's not the same thing. When you say, hey, I put soap on Amazon, I don't care if people find it. No, they care. That's why you put a price on it.
Well, Etsy, you don't.
I mean, you do care. You don't care as much, but you don't care as much.
I mean, I'm not.
But for me, I actually don't care. Like in company, I don't care because the thing is, I don't
want to grow the culture.
No, not really.
Yeah,
I don't have a. If you ask me to
put
an effort, if you ask me to put an effort, right?
That you do put an effort
to grow a culture that is outside of my alignment, my core value, things I like to do, like eating the cake, right? If eating cake, it's gonna get people. Then okay, I don't mind because I don't really care about the eating the cake. The getting people. I'm just eating the cake. So if I'm doing things and it aligns with my core values, then that's what I'm doing. If by chance a byproduct happens to get other people in, right? I don't mind. So you and I talk on this podcast. So the thing is, I don't really care about the podcast, but I care about talking to you. I care about recording this so that you and I have something to go back to. So those are my primary directive. Secondary, if people get on YouTube and see it, whatever, because why do I put it on YouTube? Because I don't want to have to store it.
YouTube is a great example.
Everything that I do is for me and for you.
Right.
Besides that, if there is extra, gravy, whatever, so be it. But I'm not looking for the gravy.
1,000% agreed. Like YouTube is a perfect example. We don't really care if somebody consumes it, but if they want to, they can. Right? Like that's the whole point. It's like throw it on whatever this made up platform in my mind is of we'll call it Clubany. We'll call it the Clubany platform. Fine. Throw it on the Clubany
platform.
Huh?
But you have to build the platform.
Yes, exactly. You have to build the platform. Yeah.
But that's to create actual work. Is there a reason why beyond just growing the culture? If there isn't because if you think you like, for example, I'm telling you, like,
okay, fine. We don't have to build the platform. Somebody should build the platform.
You and I go into this podcast because I want to talk to you and I want to learn from you and you want to learn from me and I understand more and I become this better DDI person, right? That's the primary and that's the reason why I'm doing it. Anything beyond that, I don't really care. The reason why I agreed to put it on YouTube because I can't hold all these things on my computer. Right. Neither can you. So that's why I put it on YouTube, right?
Sure.
I'm not putting on YouTube so people get views. If people get views, it's okay, right? But the thing is, what I'm doing is because I need them so that I can use them. It's for my benefit, right? So to me, this is alignment. I'm going that direction. So if somebody were able to want to tag along, that's great. But it doesn't cost me extra to have another person along the road, right? It doesn't cost. I'm not having anything add. I'm not adding subtracted from my effort in terms of the path I'm taking. So
this is my point. There's a lot of people out there in the world that would want to go on the same journey that you and I are going on. Like we should find a way to make it more accessible for them. Somebody should.
But that is not in the alignment of what I'm doing.
I agree. I'm not saying that we need to do it. I'm saying that there needs to be a reckoning, just like there was in the consumer goods industry or the music industry or the movies industry or the television industry or all these other industries, right? Like there needs to be a reckoning that somebody out there does it because it's not us. Like it's not gonna be us.
Right.
We don't care about
anyone who's aligned to it. Great, and do that.
Right.
But like I said,
right. There should be a way to connect the long values of the long tail of values and culture, like to people. Like, I mean, we should at least be able to list our culture on some platform, and people can find it and connect with it and understand who we are, and if they and we're going to continue to walk this path.
That's the thing is I'm not listing anything.
Well,
right?
I mean, but that's like
Because
saying I'm not going to put stuff on YouTube. I mean, we did it for
no,
some
no.
intrinsic value or whatever.
We did it because we need to store
Sure.
like hours. I mean, you're talking about 300, 365, 400, going to be 400, eventually, right? 400 of an hour or over an hour long episode of video. Okay. That's a huge amount of data. And for you to go and say, okay, I'm going to save it on my computer and then I'm going to lose it someday and I can't find it, blah, blah. I'm going to put it on YouTube. That's the only reason why I'm putting YouTube.
Sure.
So I'm not putting YouTube because I want to tell people, hey, there's club for me. I'm just saying, hey, look, this is what we do, right? We're recording it. I'm not restricting you from looking at it, but if you happen to look at it and you want to come along, if it doesn't cost me anything extra, come along. I don't mind sharing it, but I'm not sharing it out of, I'm not putting effort to share it, if that makes sense. Right? Because the thing is, we're talking about when you be you, right? You don't need to have validation of people tell, hey, you're doing really good, you're doing really well, you're world class at what you do. It's like, I don't need your validation, right? I don't need anyone's validation, because if you do, then you're not really doing what you're supposed to. You're just doing for the validations. You think about it that way,
right?
Right? Because you have to understand the catch-22 in it, right? It's really, if you focus on trying to be known, then you're not focused on doing what you're supposed to do.
I agree. Like, all I was saying is there's a lot of hard work that goes into starting a culture. A lot of hard work goes into starting a culture, and you're going to say it's not hard work because it's what we enjoy. And I agree. If you're doing it the right way,
you're saying, hey,
work.
you played tennis for 34 years.
We don't. I mean,
we can say, hey, Chris, you worked tennis for 34 years. What you got out of it?
There's a lot of hard play that goes into not hard. There's a lot of easy play that goes into building a culture, right? Like, fine, like whatever.
I mean, I haven't eaten a lot of cakes over the years, but I don't know if I can label it as hard
true,
work.
I'm
if you tell me that I have to eat frogs, then yes, that's hard work.
I'm 99% sure. I'm never 100% sure because we don't know shit, right? But like, I'm 99% sure on this one that most people in this world don't want to build their own culture. They want to just choose a culture that is the easiest one, and probably proximity, like whatever's the easiest. They just want to belong to other people,
I think I understand with that sentiment, but I don't think that having a platform is the answer. Because
okay, maybe that's not the answer.
All you have to do, like I said back in many episodes earlier, it's like all you have to do is be yourself and say, hey, this is the person I am. I do this, blah, blah, right? If somebody sees you as a real you and say, well, I like that kind of character and attitude, then okay, I'm going to be more likely to associate myself with that person. That automatically creates a culture.
I agree, but even as we've discovered, it's really hard for people to even understand who they are and even do what they like to do. Like, I mean, I think just most people just
exactly. So if you don't know if you don't know who you are, what you want to do, how are you going to say, I'm going to go and find and filter by this culture? Right?
I mean, that's a good point.
And so to me, it's a moot point.
All right, fine. Like, you don't have to build a fucking platform. It doesn't matter. Like the point is it is really hard to find cultures in this world, so people settle on the easy ones near them that don't really align to them, and they shouldn't. Like, there should be easier ways to find cultures that other people are out there building. There's people that build cultures all over the place. Like, it's not easy work. Gosh, all right. It is easy work, but it's not easy.
It's not hard work. It's not hard work, because any coach out there, it's just because, let's say you and I becomes, this grandfather of this seventh generation Iroquois company, right? My attitude and your attitude constitute a culture, and anyone doesn't align with it is not going to be allowed to come in. and that is going to be a culture. And over time, the people that don't like my attitude and your attitude, they can't associate themselves with company. They're gonna stay away. And so it's not how. So if you say, "Hey, Salesforce is blah blah blah," well, that's the guy who that's his character. His character. He said,
Yeah,
I founded the
it's
company,
Benioff's
right?
culture. I mean, yeah,
And I go and I hire somebody because it's my
right.
choice. I'm gonna hire my right hand man. My right hand man has to have something that I like. If not, I'm not gonna bring him in as my right hand. And my right hand starts saying, well, I'm gonna bring my underlings, right? My underling is not gonna be like different from me because I'm not gonna, I'm going to go and create
Oh
this
yeah, no, I
massive
agree.
plan, blah blah. Anyone who does that is lying to you. No one can see the future, and they don't do that. If you do that, right, it's not gonna come to the way you plan it anyway. Like 99% of the time, all the planets going to have some kind of kinks in it. It's going to completely become something totally different. So
Right.
no one can plan for it. But a culture is somebody started with that, and as long as they know themselves well and and insist on bringing people that are aligned with who they are, then they become a strong culture. But a person comes in and say, I don't really know who I am, blah blah blah, and then they bring in whoever, then yeah, the culture becomes a mesh of things and becomes
It's a
whatever,
shit show. Yeah.
right? So
Right.
if you have a strong culture because the guy on top, he insisted on doing things his way. You look at
Yeah,
Steve Jobs.
but this is what we get as consumers of culture. So great, Mark Benioff had a vision, and he brought in a few people that also had shared a similar vision. But now I get to go fucking, it's easy for me to go hop into Mark Benioff's vision, but it's not my fucking vision. There's a disconnect. There's a meaning disconnect between the two of us, right? It's easy for
Right. So
me
so
to
that's
go
what I'm
choose
saying
that,
is
but it's
that's
not
what I'm
fulfilling.
saying is even if you go and you filter out this platform and blah blah blah, but I mean, how do you know that hey company has these core values? If a company can say hey,
I don't. I mean, and I've not worked out all the problems of this. It was a thought.
to me that's why I don't see logic now. I don't see it because
I got to officially put a pin on this one because I got to go to bed because I got to get up super early for this surgery in the morning. So it'll be not a hopefully not a big deal, just a quick quick in and out like nasal reconstruction because I have a broken nose apparently. So
you don't know it's broken.
but I did know it was broken, right?
I will imagine that you have broken nose, you don't know broken. How do people know? Hey, this is my core values. This is who I
that's
am. They don't.
good point. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
hey, it's
yeah.
normal. I people only breathe on one nose.
I mean, sometimes you just get used to it. You just figure that's what it is, right? Like, hey, you just got to go work at a company like, Salesforce or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
and
people don't
that is
know.
what,
They
right. They don't
used
know.
to because
Right.
they don't see the other side. They become completely
They don't have two
entrenched in
nostrils to
it.
breathe in, and they're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, you can have two? Like, this is crazy.
It's
Like,
like, oh my
I,
God, you can choose a culture?
right, right,
Shit.
right, right. Or you can build your own. All right. So,
You can be your own? Oh,
right.
I didn't know you can do that.
All right. So the fun conversation. We have round two to come, on this one. So I think we still need some work and some work. We need to work out a little bit more of these thoughts around the long tail together, so we can make sure that we're aligned. But I think we're getting closer at the end of the conversation, so that's good. But the question we can leave for everybody is: do you have a place to call home that matches your unique value system? I think that's the most important thing, right? Like, is to know it and then find a home or create the home, like
Right.
but
Find your own people. I
right,
mean, to me, that's at the end of the day, even this reflections or many reflections earlier, the message is still the same. You have to know who you're supposed to be and just
right,
find more people like the one from yesterday. We're talking about, find uh, like the same stuff. That's
yep,
all you gotta do, and it's a culture. I mean, you like chess, go use a chess club, right?
right,
You like basketball, go go play hoops, and other people are gonna say, hey, can I play,
right,
right? And you have fun. I mean,
yep,
to me, you don't need to go fucking, hey, I want to choose a big fucking culture like Google or Facebook, blah blah. Right? You're being conditioned to want it. People say,
right,
okay, you're seeking validation. The
right,
reason why you're seeking validations is because you don't know yourself. But once you know yourself, it's like, that ain't me. Because you tell me, hey, true, this leadership, you should be a leader. I say, no, thank you. I don't want it. I mean, that's what I'm saying is I'm
right,
telling people, it's like, please, I do not want you want me leadership, right? I mean, it's like if there's no one left and there is absolutely survival depends on it, and it may help you because it outweighs that. But I don't want it because that's not who I am, right?
Right.
Because I know really, so I will refuse. But other people say, "Oh, a leadership position. That means okay, I'm being validated. People are gonna look up to me. Blah blah. Oh, I love it because you
Right.
don't know yourself yet."
Agreed. Yeah. Totally agree. All right, more to unpack, more to come here. But thanks for joining in general, and we will see you all on Monday for another
Monday.
really fun conversation as always. So thanks for
Yeah.
joining, and we'll see you soon.
See ya. Good night.